Welcome back to Poorly Educated Today in the News, where everything is on fire, underwater, or somehow both at the same time, and we're all just standing around like a guy at a barbecue watching the grill flare up thinking, well, that ain't ideal, but I'm still hungry. Today's episode feels like somebody took global stability, shook it like a soda can, and handed it back to us with a grin like, go ahead, open it. So let's crack into this mess and see how bad it sprays. Segment 1. Oil, war, and the world's most expensive traffic jam. Now let's start with the big one, the global situation over in the Middle East, where the United States, Israel, and Iran are basically locked in a standoff that's got the Strait of Hormuz tighter than a pickle jar lid your granddad refuses to admit he can't open. You've got ships backed up like it's Black Friday at Walmart, except instead of TVs, it's oil, and instead of polite shoppers, it's warships with very strong opinions. And somehow the solution we landed on is telling the Navy to shoot anything that looks suspicious, which feels less like strategy and more like yelling at raccoons in your yard with a shotgun and hoping they respect your authority. Now here's the thing. Beneath all that chaos is the reality that this one choke point handles a huge chunk of the world's oil. So when it shuts down, everything else starts acting like your bank account the day after rent hits. Prices shoot up, nerves get tight, and suddenly everybody's rethinking life choices. It's like the global economy runs on a single gas station. And right now that gas station is closed with a sign that says back in 5 minutes while the building is actively on fire. And the worst part is both sides think they're winning, which is like two guys arguing over who's steering while the car's already off the cliff. Segment 2. Gas prices and the rural wallet collapse. Now you bring that mess back home, and suddenly folks in rural America are looking at gas prices like they just saw a restaurant bill after ordering without checking the menu. We're talking about inflation hitting rural areas harder than a hailstorm on a tin roof, and people are feeling it in a real way. You got folks trying to decide whether to fill the truck or buy groceries, and that's not an exaggeration. That's Tuesday now. And every time you think it can't get worse, it's like the economy says, hold my beer, and raises the price on that too. And I gotta say, this is where it gets a little absurd, because we're out here spending billions on war while people are clipping coupons like it's an Olympic sport. It's like buying a brand new bass boat while your house has no roof, and then acting surprised when it rains inside. Beneath all the jokes, the reality is simple. When energy costs spike, everything else follows, and regular people end up carrying the weight while the folks making decisions are busy arguing about who gets credit for the mess. It's not just numbers on a chart, it's folks changing how they live day to day. Segment 3. Pentagon drama and the Golden Fleet fantasy. Meanwhile, over at the Pentagon, things are about as stable as a folding table at a family reunion. The Secretary of the Navy gets fired, leadership's getting shuffled around like a deck of cards in a high-stakes poker game, and in the middle of all that, someone says, you know what we need? Giant battleships. Not small upgrades, not strategic adjustments, no sir. We're talking about building massive floating fortresses like it's 1942 again, just with more Wi-Fi and a bigger price tag. Now, I don't know who looked at a global economic crisis and thought, yeah, let's drop tens of billions on a supersized warship, but that's like deciding to remodel your kitchen while your car's on fire in the driveway. Sure, it might be nice eventually, but maybe handle the flames first. Underneath all that is a real issue, though, which is confusion about long-term strategy. Are we fighting today's war, tomorrow's war, or just collecting the most expensive toys we can think of? Because right now, it feels like we're doing all three at once, and none of them particularly well. Segment 4, Political Fractures and the Base starts cracking. Back here in the political world, things are getting weird, And I mean weird like your cousin bringing up conspiracy theories at Thanksgiving weird. You've got major voices on the right suddenly turning on the administration, saying, hold on, this ain't what we signed up for. And that's a big deal. When your own team starts questioning the playbook, you don't have a strategy problem, you got a locker room problem. And once that starts, it spreads faster than gossip in a small town. Now on the other side, Democrats are gearing up like they just heard the dinner bell, pushing back hard, talking about war powers, accountability, all that good stuff. And somewhere in the middle of that political tug-of-war is the average person just trying to figure out why everything costs more and nothing feels stable. It's like watching two people argue over how to fix a leaking roof while the rain just keeps pouring in. The real observation here is simple. When both sides are digging in, the problem usually gets worse before it gets better. Segment 5. Legal weed and political distraction season. And right when you think things couldn't get more chaotic, the government decides to reclassify marijuana, moving it down the list like it just got demoted from the worst kid in class to the one who still talks too much, but at least does homework. Now don't get me wrong, that's a big deal for a lot of folks, especially businesses and medical research. But the timing is something else. It feels like handing out free snacks while the house is on fire. Like, hey, don't worry about the flames. We got chips. But underneath that move is a pretty clear strategy. Give people something positive to talk about while everything else is falling apart. And honestly, it might work for a minute, because people do like a win, even a small one. But eventually, folks notice when the bigger problems don't go away. You can't distract your way out of an economic storm forever, especially when that storm is hitting wallets every single day. Segment 6. Wildfires, chemical spills, and domestic chaos. And just to make sure we don't forget we've got problems right here at home, we've got wildfires burning through parts of the southeast, like nature decided to crank the heat up and walk away. Entire communities getting evacuated, homes going up in smoke, and emergency crews stretched thin trying to keep up. At the same time, you've got a chemical disaster in West Virginia that sounds like something out of a movie nobody wanted to watch, with toxic gas leaks and workers getting hurt. It's like the country is dealing with a kitchen fire, a flooded basement, and a raccoon in the attic all at once. And somebody keeps saying, let's focus on repainting the walls. The grounded reality here is that resources are limited, attention is limited, and when too many crises hit at once, something gets missed. And usually, it's the folks who can least afford it that feel that miss the hardest. In conclusion, what we're looking at right now is a full-blown pileup of global conflict, economic pressure, political division, and domestic emergencies all happening at the same time. Like every problem showed up to the same party uninvited. And while everybody's arguing about who's in charge, the rest of us are just trying to keep our heads above water and maybe afford a tank of gas without taking out a loan. If there's one thing to take away, it's that chaos doesn't come in neat little boxes. It stacks up, it overlaps, and it keeps coming until somebody figures out how to actually deal with it, instead of just talking about it.